Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Marriage is Tougher Than Woodpecker Lips podcast. This is Brian, joined by my co-host, Paul. We'd like to welcome you to a community meant for the men of the world to share their thoughts and perspectives on marriage. We can learn from each other's experiences and help each other be better husbands. This week on the pod, we want to talk about stating your intentions. We're going to dive into how conversations can happen and or break down if you may not employ this tactic.
And before we jump into the episode, we just want to encourage you to lean into community. Anywhere on our socials, hit us up. You can do it on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, just searching Marriage is Tougher, or you can hit our site, marriageistoffer.com. There's a contact form if you want to be a guest, if you have any questions specifically for us, or if you have any questions about the episode. But the whole point is just to build community. So please reach out to us there. And now let's hop into the conversation.
Yeah. So I got this idea from a video I saw. A gentleman was talking about how clarity is great to have, right? He was talking about how when speaking to your wife to avoid some areas of contention, you can just basically clearly state your intentions, right? There was some questions he gave as examples, but I really wanted to run through this with you to see if this is something you do, if you can see this working out. But the way I saw it when I first saw this video was, wow, that's something I don't think that my wife and I do, and it's a weird dynamic knowing how, if we were to employ this tactic, how much of a different result we could potentially get. So it's something I would definitely want to work on, but certainly just want to first talk to you about it.
Man, anything that is clarity is good, right? Especially in marriage. We can reduce the gray, reduce the haze, reduce the what ifs, the left to our own thoughts, or left to figure out what the intentions are, I think is great. So I'm ready for any tool that that helps marriages communicate better.
Yeah.
So let's jump in it.
Yeah. So, fellas, imagine a world where if your wife came to you and asked, "What time are you going to be home?" and then followed that with, "The reason I'm asking is I'd like to go grocery shopping and want to know if I'll have enough time to do that before we have to put the kids to bed." Those two different scenarios, if the statement and the question are left apart, just sit and reflect a minute how that would make you feel, right? Because I know for me, if my wife simply poses that question, "Hey, what time are you going to be home from work?" or "What time are you going to be home?" No matter what I'm doing, I could be golfing, out working, whatever. For some reason, I feel like I'm getting set up, right? Like, and not set up like, oh, she's gonna do something terrible. Set up as in like, there's gonna be an ask here, and I'm gonna have to do something that I'm not prepared to do. Now, if she follows it up with that statement, the reason I'm asking is because I need to get to the grocery store. Now my mind is more prepared to give her not only an answer, but I think a fuller answer and a less apprehensive answer. Right? And I wonder now how many times my answers do come across to her as apprehensive, right? Because I'm immediately considering all of her responses once I give her an answer, right? Like, what? All right, so why does she need me to be, or why does she want to know why or what time I'm going to be home? Is it for this, or this? All right, so what answer can I give that would be the appropriate one that won't make her upset, or give her the opportunity to do what she needs to do, or is there something I forgot that we have to do? Um, you know what I mean?
All that runs through your head at the
And so
time
I'm
when a
like,
question like that, yeah.
I don't know. 7 o'clock.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's tense for me as it stands. I don't know. Give me
No,
some feedback, man.
no, that is um what happens. And I think even asking anyone, not just your wife, but just or being asked that, right? If you're like, so I would say the reason that I have a history, now that you're saying that, I have a history of asking questions like that. But the point is, I'll ask a first question knowing that I'm going to ask a follow up question, but based on the first answer is if I'm going to follow that up or not,
Right.
right? Because it's like, hey, you're going to be, what are you doing around on Saturday afternoon, right? If you say you have plans, like, oh, that's cool, I'll make it conversational. If you don't, and there's something like, hey, do you want to watch, this movie or go to this game? Then that's how I'll answer. And I see now it was definitely brought to light in my relationship and as well as just others that if you quickly follow up with the statement, that will give a better answer, which is why I love this topic because I didn't really think about it until right now. And this is a recently learned thing for me, like within the last 6 months. So the rest of my life, I have been asking a first question with a second question, like a part B, like a choose your own adventure type deal,
I like it.
but not with the purpose of the setup, which technically it is, but not with like a malicious setup. Um,
Right.
so, but I've learned, and we can talk about this later, how to kind of not do that anymore. But I hope that gives some context to what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I may have just discovered as you were talking is a piece of this might be fear of rejection, right? So just in what you were saying, if I ask you, "Hey, what do you got going on Saturday afternoon?" That doesn't allow me to be rejected publicly. If my true intention was to ask you to hang out or go golfing or do whatever, right? If I don't have to ask you that question until I know your time is available, number one, and I then get to ask, and there's like less likely you have the opportunity to say no to me, right? So maybe that's a piece of the puzzle that we need to work on within ourselves is just accepting no's
I
and
mean,
not like judging people for telling you no when you might know that they have availability. Like it's
that is full on the reason why I did it. Like,
okay,
that's a part of my deep dive in myself, um, with my wife and my therapist. It's like, yeah, that all stems from rejection. Like, I don't want to be rejected on anything. So I try to serve up this perfect scenario so that someone will say yes. Right. And it's a whole thing. Um, and it was for me. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll say for me, in my case, it was, how can I create less scenarios that I'll be rejected, which is crazy to think about because we hear no's all the time,
right,
but I don't always make asks all the time.
yep,
And that's the thing, or specific to someone that I care about or like someone that I really want to do something with. Like, I don't make those asks all the time. So those intimate asks, I'm trying to set up everything so that I don't get a no. Um, and I think it definitely it overflows into my personal relationships, like work stuff. No, not that big of a deal or anything I'm doing. But if it's like for those people that I care about in my life, like, I always want everyone to say yes. And in my mind, I know that there are going to be no's because that's it. But if you already have plans, then it's not a no,
right,
right?
right.
It's just I'm not going to ask. But
It,
it's the same result. If I say, hey, I want to hang out Saturday afternoon, you know, what are you doing? And you're like, oh, well, I already have something. Like, that's still a no, but it just feels
it feels different
different.
because it's
Yeah.
I'm not available. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have time, but not for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so but yeah, so it's a weird dynamic, and I've definitely worked through, probably am working through that. Um,
Yeah,
so
like,
for
go
yeah,
ahead.
no, it's the same for me. It that wasn't a piece of it. That was the driving force behind it. Was I didn't want to be rejected.
Yeah, I just started thinking. Right, this is a marriage podcast. How often is it that you would put yourself in that scenario and then be rejected by your wife if you were to suggest you spent time together? So I think maybe for marriage, this is less of a driving force, like this little scenario we're playing out here. Um, but I could see myself being manipulative for something I may want to do.
Hmm.
Right? Like, hey, what do you have going on Saturday? And oh, wow. All right. So now that I'm thinking about this, she might be reading into it, thinking that I'm trying to set up something for us to do together, but I'm actually just trying to get out of the house and go somewhere else away from her. Like that just compounds it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh
That
man.
is even worse.
Yeah. So to your point, stating your intention before the question, there are appropriate times when that should happen. Hey, I'd like to go
Yeah,
golfing on Saturday morning. What do we have going on, or what do you have going on? Is this something that can happen? Right?
yeah. I mean, for those that are more direct communicators, or operationally minded, like really like to get things done, I've learned, even in my short span of doing this, that it actually works well to kind of make the statement beforehand and then ask the question. I have a lot of people that think like that around me, so it's kind of just helped me, and it helps me like figure out what I want to say before I want to say it. So it's just as direct as possible. Like, this is what I want to do. Can you be a part of it? Yes or no? And kind of working through that.
Yeah. And I'm starting to think about the other areas in life where this method could help me. And I'm thinking at work, this is probably how I already communicate,
Hmm.
right? Because I think it makes things more efficient, right? But there's also less of an expectation that someone's feelings will get hurt if I communicate in this fashion,
Right.
right? Huh. Yeah. All right. So I'm admitting this is something I need to work on within my marriage. And I'm thinking, how do I just get over that hump and say, all right, this is who I am now. This is how I communicate with my wife when I need to ask questions. And there is something that I desire behind my question or some result I'm looking for behind my question I'm asking. Right. So, how do I now just become the man who communicates in this fashion?
Practice on the little things. Like, hey, every question I'm going to ask, I'm going to give the statement after it. Like, hey, even if it's painfully obvious, and we've talked about this before, hey, can you grab that paper towel for me? It's just a little bit too far, and I'm cutting up these vegetables right now. Right? Like
Yeah.
something like that. Like, um, and you can even say, we're big on communicating with your wife that you're working on something before you start working on it, so that she can take an account of how that's going. She can give you account of how that's going. So I'm going to be working on this. It's going to seem silly, but I'm going to try to make statements right after I ask a question to give context to my question.
Yeah.
Just that statement alone is like what any human wants, to just be more intimate, like to know what someone's thinking and what they're about to do. So that is traditionally what wives are asking their husbands for, is a little bit more intimate moments, a little bit more inside of their head. But if you tell her you're working on this and then ask her, hey, like, keep me accountable, like, give me account of how I'm doing. If I ask you, say, how am I doing with this questions thing? Or remind me that this is what I said when I don't do it. If I just say, hey, what are you doing that for? And leave it there, you can remind me, is there context to this question? Is there a statement afterwards?
Yeah.
And then and she can give you space to do that. I think those are probably the two best ways to do that outside of like trying to just be intentional. And every time you're going to ask a question, remember that that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I was going to say within practice, give your wife, or if you're a woman listening, give your husband permission to ask why you're asking the question, right? As sort of a reminder to
Mm-hmm.
make your intentions known, or make your intention statement, I'll call it, for whatever reason. Um, and I think it was what you said was similar to an area I was going to go. I apologize because it's slipping my mind at the moment. Um, oh, it I think provides, or I guess what I'm trying to say is it spurs more communication, right? We're all about communication. So if
Mm-hmm.
we start practicing by stating our intentions, and if it's around asking questions that we're stating our intentions, once I do that, that allows my wife to fully respond, right? Is what we were saying. So now if she fully responds, I'm probably getting more of the context that I need, more of the answers that I need. Um, and let's say the conversation doesn't go my way. Hey, what are you doing around this time? Because I'd like to go golfing, right? Now we're in a conversation that will allow me to plan on maybe another day if it doesn't work at the time I'm requesting, right? Uh, I got to be better.
Yeah, because it's about working together. Because she's not like, oh, I hate you golfing. It's just
Yeah.
on this day, like, no, we already like. Did you look at the calendar? Did you miss that we had this? Or I really wanted to just go to the park, or I wanted to take this time to go grocery shopping, or whatever. Something that might not be on the calendar that you guys have, but so maybe not. It doesn't work here, or it could work here, but it would work best here, right? And that's something that us, as couples really need to work through, like what works best for us, even if it might not be best for me right now. So it's more of that give and take, and that relational aspect. I mean, that relational part of communication is so um, empowering for a
Mhm.
marriage, just being able to talk through everything. And it's a good way to practice and introduce that into your marriage.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about a husband hack at the moment. If you want to practice this, how about you start by saying, hey, what are you doing around this time on this night? Because I'd really like to talk to you about our future, or our plans, or our next steps in something that you're trying to accomplish together. Um, that could be considered an intimate lead into an intimate moment.
Yeah. And just that aspect, again, what we were saying is even if that night doesn't work, it's now on the calendar. It's now on the calendar as something that you're gonna have, which is amazing for a marriage.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
good.
that's good. Um, I don't know. What else do you have on this topic? I don't know if I have anything else.
No, I think that's a I say no because I don't think I have anything else, but I'm running it through my brain.
Right, right. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
definitely something that it's a tool that
yeah,
can be used well. And like any tool that you use, figuring out how to use it most efficiently can take some time. Some people can pick up a chainsaw right away and just be sawing out trees. Some people it takes a little time. Maybe we'll start on some smaller limbs maybe it takes a little longer to cut through some things. So just give yourself grace when you start using this tactic. And again, the setup to let your wife know will help you each give each other grace instead of getting that, why are you asking?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think I'm gonna take just the dive in approach and just start doing it. I'm gonna identify as a man who communicates in this fashion because what if it's amazing? I want to live on the other side of that.
yeah.
If I'm ever questioning, I think the first question I'm going to lean into now, but what if it's amazing? And I think that'll start promoting some more action from me. Not that I lack taking action in most places, but in areas around marriage, sometimes I'm a little tentative to try new things.
Hmm.
But I think I like it for this one.
Let's do it. So, if you jump into this, please let us know how it's going. You can do that. Hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Facebook. Um, and if you have a question or comment, you can hit us up at marriageistougher.com as well. So please let us know how this is going in your marriage and in your relationships, or also if you just want to reach out and connect with us in any way. Again, if you want to be a guest, fill out the form at marriageistougher.com. We will reach out and set it up for you to be on the show. So until next time, we'll chat later.
Peace.